What's going on, everybody? So much ridiculous going on in the world and on social media right now. So I'm going to talk about it in about 15 seconds when everybody gets in. Until then, I'm going to just sip on my coffee for a second, if you don't mind. It's a solid brew. For the occasion, got my Golden State Warriors jersey on, my Steph Curry jersey. Shout out Steph Curry. Much love to LeBron. Much love to President Trump. Much love to the whole United States of America. So I woke up this morning to my president arguing on Twitter to my favorite players, Steph Curry and LeBron James. And I think when it comes to this, I'm probably going to have a perspective that nobody else is going to say. I'm sure I'm going to make both sides a little bit mad, but I really don't care. I think both sides are being irrational and both sides are right in a way. I think both sides are right and wrong. First of all, I think the players have a right to go to the White House or not, but I also think in sports right now, it's a group thing. You know, everybody hates Trump. Jemele Hill calling him a white supremacist, that's completely untrue, uncalled for. I've spoken against that numerous times. It's the trendy thing to do. I love standing up for a cause. I think that players should be allowed to protest and speak their minds. I don't think that they should be, oh, it's their job, just go play basketball for me. To me, that sounds very like, dance, monkey, dance, do what I want you to do. You know, they don't have to do anything they don't want. I don't have to do anything they don't want. I don't like when my boss tells me to just sit and work and shut up. Then I leave and go find a new job because I'm better than that. You know, I don't like to be treated like that. Neither do NFL and NBA players. But here's the thing with LeBron and Steph Curry and Jemele Hill. I know I looked at Jemele Hill's Twitter and she had a picture of her and President Obama saying, oh man, I love when times were so simple and cool like this. I love President Obama. To my friends Steph Curry and LeBron James and Jemele Hill, do you even know what President Barack Obama did? Or do you just like him because he was black? Do you just like him because he was very nice and cool and funny? Do you even know what he did? That's my question. Because when it comes to black lives, just being honest, just being fair, just being real, because I care and I keep it 100. Do you know what he did in Syria? Do you know what he did in Libya? Do you know what he did in Iraq? Because I do. And Barack Obama, during his 8 years, destroyed Iraq, destroyed Libya. You want to talk about a black leader that was potentially helping black lives? Look no further than Libya. It has been a pure disaster. I'm not saying Gaddafi was perfect, but you want to talk about white supremacy or black supremacy or American supremacy or presidential supremacy, whatever title you want to talk about it. For us to go into a country like Libya and kill the leader and let terrorists take over the entire thing, what's more terrible than that? The fact that Barack Obama dropped 26,000 bombs in 2016, yet terrorism was on the rise. So who was he bombing if he wasn't bombing terrorists? I mean, I don't think President Trump's doing a better job of slowing down the bombing, but there is one thing that's clear, and this is what no athlete will talk about, because they probably don't even know. All they do is listen to the fake news media and talk in little circle jerk groups, and then if you say something opposite, they probably won't talk to you. But ISIS had taken over Iraq and Syria under the Obama administration, completely taken over the cities. So when you talk about a travel ban, oh, we got to let a bunch of people from Syria in. Did you even know that ISIS had taken over some of their passport agencies? So a lot of the refugees that were coming and flooding Europe, where you see the rise of the terror attacks now, whether it's related or not, they're letting literal ISIS members all over Europe. President Trump tried to stop that, but this is a conversation that no NBA player, no NFL player probably ever has, because they don't even know it. It's not even on the radar. They're like, the world was perfect, Barack Obama was great, and President Trump's terrible. So if you're going to criticize President Trump for not standing up for your causes, that's fine. I love it. Please. But tell the truth. Let me know what you're talking about. Let's have a debate about it. Let's not make it a one-sided circle jerk of President Trump is terrible and nothing ever happened bad before, because President Obama let ISIS take over the entire Middle East. He let them take over multiple cities in Iraq. He let them take over multiple cities in Syria. And now Syria has freed themselves from ISIS almost completely in their biggest cities, and the mainstream media stays silent. LeBron James says nothing. Steph Curry says nothing. Jamel Hill says nothing because they don't actually care about other people. They don't care about underprivileged people. They don't care about black lives. They don't care about Christian lives. They don't care about Muslim lives. They just want to sit in a little echo chamber of people who agree with their thoughts. So Syria is freeing themselves from ISIS. No mainstream media coverage. Barack Obama let ISIS take over the entire Middle East while he was bombing. So who is he bombing? If he's dropping bombs and selling weapons and ISIS grows even though we have the largest military, what was he doing? What was the Iran deal? These people have no idea. So my first things first is, it's embarrassing to see all the athletes say, oh my God, I'm doing such a good job. We're going to protest the White House. I mean, you're talking about a president who inherited one of the worst foreign policy decisions ever. Whether it was Obama, whether it was Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, whether it was the intelligence agencies, I'm not here to say whose decision it was, but it's embarrassing. Why is it okay for people to drop a bunch of bombs, destroy a bunch of lives, make Black Lives Matter work, make police lives matter work, make white lives matter work, Latino? I don't even like talking about race. I think it's ignorant and weird, but just for the discussion, I know that's what this is all about. I'm going to say it. The last president did nothing. The only thing he did good was smiling and convincing people that he wasn't doing all this stuff. So he was a great liar. When it comes to President Trump, sure, I don't think he's handling it properly. I think it's a very dumb move to tweet, oh, Steph Curry, you're not coming to the White House. To me, President Trump sounds like a big baby. And to be honest, I just made a live stream yesterday, took a little bit of heat for it from people saying, oh no, he's perfect, he never makes mistakes. I'm just saying, if you want the protests to go away, yelling at the protesters is not going to make them go away. It's going to make NFL and NBA players protest more. Now, instead of the Golden State Warriors coming together to make a decision whether they wanted to go to the White House or not, President Trump says, hey, you know what, you hesitated, you're not invited. That's what he said on Twitter. You've hesitated, Steph Curry, you're not invited to the White House. So now, 20, 30 minutes ago, the Golden State Warriors put out an official statement saying, I guess we're not invited, so we're not going to come. We wish the president would have gave us the chance to meet and collectively talk as a team whether we're going to the White House or not, but now we can. I guess we're not invited. So this creates a whole new media storm as it was dying down, as people were looking foolish like Morgan Freeman and Jamel Hill for blatantly lying, using their platforms to call the president a white supremacist, and Morgan Freeman using his platform to say, we're under attack, we're at war by Russia. No, we're not, Morgan Freeman. You're working for the ruling class elites, trying to lie to everybody. Tell them we're at war with Russia because they wanted a war with Russia regardless of who won president, and President Trump didn't want a war with Russia. So Morgan Freeman, I believe, is wrong. Jamel Hill, I believe, is wrong. But in credit to Jamel Hill, who has now become the icon of calling Trump a white supremacist and standing up for that side, she is telling the truth she made a tweet today and she said, just for the record, doing this is not going to make the protests go down. It's going to make more protests, and that's 100% right. If President Trump, his agenda is to make the protests increase by 500%, then yeah, he did a great job. Good job. You know, tweeting, being headstrong, that's cool. To me personally, let people fight. I just wish there was more honesty involved in this debate. It's like one side versus the other just yelling at each other like little babies. And the president of the United States, in my opinion, is acting a little bit like a baby in this situation. Don't come to the White House. Oh, we're not going to come to the White House. Don't protest. Oh, we're going to protest. Both sides, shut up and actually talk about something. To the protesters, like I've just said, what are you protesting? What part of President Trump are you mad at? What part of the police are you mad at? Let's talk about it. Let's have a back and forth debate. But I don't believe that athletes are that revolutionary for what they're doing. I think they are. But the fact that they let a president for 8 years drop all these bombs, start all these wars, put us in a bad situation. When you look at Iraq and Libya, it's not a good situation. It's literally, a humanitarian crisis. Same with things that are going on in Yemen and, other countries, it's very, very, very bad. Way worse than here, to the point where people come from Brazil, they come from South America, they come from the Middle East, they come from Africa, they come from all over the world to come to the United States because what we think is bad, what we think is underprivileged, is actually extremely, extremely, extremely privileged. So we're extremely privileged. Even if you're making a minimum wage job and you want to complain with Bernie Sanders and LeBron James, we should be grateful. We absolutely should be grateful because people from other countries come and take the stuff that we don't want and are like, thank God I'm here, even if I'm making this salary that we complain about. So on that note, I do think athletes' perspective of what they're protesting about is very, 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 very skewed. It is very hate-based. It is very biased. And we need to have a full-on discussion. But I'm just being honest. I think both sides are being ridiculous. And I think President Trump's strategy, whether you love it or hate it, you think it's the greatest thing, I'm just being honest, it's going to make protests increase. How do you stop a social battle? How do you stop a building up thing? Do you stop it by throwing more fire on it? I'm just being real. If you want to stop it, that's what I want to do. I want to stop it because I'm sick of just hearing both sides be dumb. But if you want to fight, if you want to act like, oh my God, it's a war, we got to fight the other side, it's never going to end. Just like we've been fighting since the beginning of time over religion and over land and over countries. We've been fighting over virtually nothing. And when you have people being irrational like Jamel Hill, like possibly a LeBron James or a Steph Curry, how do you defeat them? How do you beat them? Do you defeat them by yelling at them? I mean, I'm just being honest. Is that how you defeat them? Just yell at them? Get your side riled up? Get the other side riled up? Have no conversations? No. You do it like I'm going to reference again at the mother of all rallies. You had Trump supporters let Black Lives Matter on the stage and have conversations. When you have a conversation that's intelligent, you can get through to somebody. You can say, you're wrong about that. Here's why you're right. And if you're right, they'll probably consider it. Maybe they won't, but you can find common ground. You could be like, oh my God, we are really the same. It's just I misinterpreted that. You misinterpreted that. But I think the fighting on all sides is very childish. I think it's very dumb that all the athletes now don't want to go to the White House. Before President Trump even tweeted, personally, I think that's dumb because they're standing on their high horse saying, oh, the White House is so bad now. And you ask them why the White House is bad and their answer is dumb. They don't care about the wars. They don't care about poverty. They don't care about the true crimes against humanity that have been happening all over the place. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just care about, a narrative that's been repeated by the fake news media for, the past year or two. So when you ask the team, it's like, why are you protesting? They're like, oh, we're protesting the endless wars, and we're protesting what's going on in the Middle East because we don't agree with it, and we're protesting all the bad stuff. They don't care about any of that stuff. The stuff that they're protesting doesn't even scratch the surface of what the last president does. But nobody cares because they like the last president because he was cool and he was funny. To me, the whole reason why I have this platform and I make these videos, I don't care how cool and funny you are. If you're selling nuclear weapons to Iran, if you're destroying the Middle East, if you're, increasing tensions in the United States, I don't care how nice or funny. So in that way, I appreciate President Trump. You get what you see. He says how he feels. He's very blunt. He'll make some mistakes. He'll not make some mistakes, but he's not essentially lying to you all the time. If he stood up there and had a speech that was just, oh, blah, 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 the same thing that everyone else said, I'm a girl. It's not really helping. So I think it's healthy to be straightforward, to be honest. But I do think athletes are missing the big picture. Stuff that he did in the Middle East has been revolutionary. He went against the intelligence communities, stopped the funding that was going to ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and ISIS is falling in Syria. They barely even exist in Syria. They barely even exist in Iraq. Iraq and Syria took over their major cities. That's huge news. That's a terrorist group that was expanding all over the Middle East. Now they're getting into Europe, starting all these terror attacks. Athletes don't care about this, though. They don't care that there's little kids getting blown up at an Ariana Grande concert. They don't care that there's acid attacks every day in Great Britain. They don't care that the president of the United States, President Trump, is trying to protect us from a lot of those things, and he's doing an amazing job, actually. I know that they don't care because athletes only care about things that are politically correct. So in that way, I totally disagree with the athletes because they don't even know what they're talking about. I'm not saying I give them the freedom of speech, the right to voice their platform, but I don't agree with them. I'm not like, yes, because they don't know what they're talking about. They're going to be anti-travel ban because the news tells them to be anti-travel ban. But they don't know that ISIS under Obama took over Syria and took over the passport agencies. So when you're taking refugees from Syria, you're taking 100,000, you're going to be taking ISIS members because they took over the entire cities. The news is not going to tell you that. LeBron James is not going to tell you that. Steph Curry's not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that. So in that way, political correctness is dumb. These athletes are dumb. Hopefully, now that all these athletes are speaking out, I pray and I hope that there's some athlete somewhere that knows what they're talking about and, uses their platform of protest to make a little bit more sense, because the path that the anti-Trump crowd is going on, the path that the protesting athletes are going on, it's pure destruction. While I agree with some of their feelings, and I agree that certain situations between police and citizen have been crazy, I know the police can be corrupt. They have a lot of powers, just like the politicians can be. The path that they're on is pure destruction because they're putting a blinder on some of the biggest ills in the world. They're putting a blinder on the wars. They're putting a blinder on the fact we had a president that killed multiple leaders and just left the country to pure shit. I mean, you would think that athletes care about that, but they don't. Jemele Hill doesn't care. As long as she's got a selfie with Obama, man, that's cool. Is it because he's cool? Is it because he's trendy? Do we only care about race now? And in that way, I think a lot of people are being racist against the president. You could call him a white supremacist, but to me, racism is judging someone based on their race. So in a lot of ways, did millions of people only like Obama because he was black? Do millions of people hate Trump because he's white? Do they hate it because he's blunt and straightforward and Obama was more sneaky? And I don't know the reason why people feel the way they do. But I wish we could just look at every situation and not be disguised by what they say, watch their actions, and not care what color of their skin they are, just care what they do. Because if a white president was bombing the Middle East and, destroying multiple leaders, I would care the same way. But I feel like a lot of these athletes and a lot of people on ESPN, to them it is a race thing. To them it is that's my president, this is not my president. Why? What if we had a black president that was speaking like President Trump and being very blunt? Would the sports community have a different feel on it? That's a question I can't answer because I don't know the answer. If Obama was a white person who did the same things that he did but was doing all these, would the athletes and ESPN care or treat it differently? I don't know. That's a question I can't answer. But I do find something funny that no athletes care what happened. During the Obama administration, he passed a law that said without trial, they could pretty much arrest you, take you to jail, potentially kill you. Who knows? That was passed. No one cares. An act was passed. I believe it was the NDAA. You could look it up. A propaganda act in 2011, 2012 that made it legal for the United States government to make more propaganda. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the endless wars. Would people have cared if Obama wasn't so cool and smooth? I think it has to do with how, he knows how to finesse the media. But you're talking about George Bush brought us to the Middle East. When Obama left office, we were bombing 7 countries. 7 countries. What a good actor to convince people that none of that matters. So that's how I feel on this situation. I think athletes have the right to protest. People have the right to not support the teams. The president has the right to argue with them on Twitter, but I'm specifically talking about what's going to solve the problem. I think the athletes have that right, but I think they don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to a full scale of issues and world politics and whatnot. I think they're very media driven. I think the president probably shouldn't have said that because it's just stirring up more fire, it's stirring up more controversy and feeding the narrative that he is all these things that he's not. So in that way, I think both sides have the right. Both sides, are a little bit wrong. And me personally, I would love to see an athlete come out, talk about the wars, talk about Syria, talk about Iraq, also talk about the media, the mainstream media, talk about other problems that really affect the United States. But right now, everything's an echo chamber. It's all one-sided. It's Jimmy Kimmel, what the LeBron says, this is our health care, this is how you feel, this is the only problem in the world, everything's fine, don't care about the travel ban, don't pay attention that, Syria has a bunch of ISIS members who took over the passport agencies, just take it, everything's about diversity, it's all love, you're racist if you don't agree with me. That's that side. That's extremely dangerous. I talk out against it all the time, but for this instance, once again, I know people are going to get upset like they did my last video, but I don't think the president, if he wants to really unite everybody, he's not doing it the right way. By continuing to fuel that fire, there's going to be more protests now, there's going to be more people speaking out, and there's going to be more people thinking he is what he's not, what these people are trying to paint him as. I already see it. McCoy on Twitter, LeBron on Twitter, all the athletes now, the paradigm has been broken. So now everybody's going to speak out. The problem is these people have been playing sports for the past 15 years, probably, if anything, reading social media, watching the mainstream news, so they don't know anything about politics. So now we're going to have a bunch of political athletes that know nothing about politics. That's fine. I'm just warning you, though, if you want to stop the problem, a different strategy has to be had. We need communication. We need understanding. We don't need fighting like little children. We need okay, I hear your point, but this is where I think you're wrong. Okay, I hear that point, but this is where you're wrong. Oh, I hear that point. Like a real back and forth debate, not just a bunch of screaming kids who sit in their corner and don't want to hear the other perspective. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. So to sum this whole thing up, I think President Trump jumped the gun saying, Steph Curry, you hesitated too long. I think Steph Curry and LeBron James and all the athletes that are, protesting and not going to the White House, I think that's a little corny based on their reasoning and based on all of the things that have been happening the past 8 years that they didn't care anything about. So in that ways, I think there's a little bit of truth and a little bit of phoniness on both sides. Let me know what you think. Have a good week. I'll be back with more stuff that, doesn't include all of this drama over the past 24 hours. I just want to speak about it real quick. But really, I want to get down to the nitty-gritty, get down to the point, bring people together, and hopefully get past all of this weirdness. I can foresee both sides bubbling up. That's never good to have tensions increased and both sides getting more and more emboldened and mad. I want to see everybody simmering down and seeing each other's perspectives. So let me know what you think. Again, if you would like to donate to my news analysis, link below. I have a lot of stuff. You can scroll down on my Facebook page if you're new. I got a lot of great videos, alternative perspectives, and stuff that you just won't see on the mainstream media, and stuff you also won't see on social media. I think there's a lot of good stuff, not only in my video section, but on my timeline. So thank you guys for joining again. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's @DreamRare. My Twitter is @LegendaryEnergy. My website, where I have a bunch of stuff, is legendary.vision. And thank you so much for listening and considering.